Number 5 on this list is the smelly photo. Alright everybody, beware of the smelly photo, for if you purchase it, then you'll be cursed with a horrible smelling odor for all of eternity. Alright, so maybe it's not that dramatic, but apparently this is actually a thing. Mental Floss says this historic daggerette type is reportedly inhabited by a Victorian gent named Martin. It was initially found in the eaves of an attic, and its owner would bring it out for guests to see. Eventually, people began to notice that certain smells would mysteriously appear and just as mysteriously disappear, such as the scent of roses and cigar or pipe smoke, or even the odor of smoke from a wood fire, the seller writes. When questioned with a Ouija board, the spirit inside was sometimes talkative and even playful, but other times reticent. But some spooky things started happening in the house, like objects disappearing or being moved, and footsteps and whispers faintly heard. These strange goings on became more frequent until finally the image was removed from the house and sent to a collector who reports some continued activity. So I'm unsure if you can still buy this thing or if it's completely off the market for good, but realistically you probably shouldn't want to be buying it anyways. Your house basically becomes immediately haunted with weird smells if you purchase this photo. Now I will admit, some of these smells really aren't that bad, like roses. If this picture can just make my house smell like roses all the time, then I mean that sounds pretty nice. Or honestly, cigar smoke can be really nice too. Like there's definitely a time and place to have a good whiff of a cigar, but the big problem is that you can't really control this thing. So if my guy wanted to just scent the house up with the odor of unwashed 1800s Victorian era man, then he could totally do that. This item isn't gonna kill you or anything, but I do think that the novelty would wear off pretty fast and it could get annoying very quickly. Just make sure that you have some Febreze on hand if you do choose to buy it.
Moving on to number 4, we have the haunted teddy bears. So in part 1, I talked about the haunted dolls that infest eBay. Seriously, there's way too many of them. Well, guess what? Apparently, there's an abundance of haunted bears on eBay as well. Isn't that great? This first bear is apparently haunted by a little blonde boy named Oliver. Oliver likes to move the teddy bear around, so you might set it down in one place and in the morning it could be in a completely different place. The seller even apparently used an Ouija board to contact the spirit possessing the bear. That's when they learned that the boy possessing it was named Oliver and that he is shy, playful, but also scared. Apparently, according to Oliver, he got the bear for his 10th birthday as a gift. But soon his parents were like, whoa, that bear is possessed, we need to get rid of it. Then whatever was possessing the bear originally ended up killing Oliver, and then Oliver got latched onto the bear. What a freaking messed up story. Another haunted bear is this one. It can be bought for only 16 pounds, but it's possessed by a little girl named Sarah. According to the paranormal investigator and collector who once owned this bear, Sarah went missing from an adventure playground one day and was never found. Later, it was discovered that Sarah's mom was using this bear to speak to her dead daughter. The seller of this bear also went on to say that Sarah likes to communicate through EVP, and on a number of occasions she has moved the bear, especially on April 28th, the anniversary of her death. That's when the paranormal activity is most active. In our third spot today, we have the haunted tap shoes. Imagine you're drifting off to sleep when all of a sudden you hear something tapping on the floor beneath you. I'd be terrified and I wouldn't be able to fall back to sleep after that. Well, that's exactly what happened to the person that discovered these haunted tap shoes. According to the seller, the shoes were in a nursery closet in their late aunt's estate. When they first were exploring the estate, they heard knocking coming from inside the closet. They opened it up and boom, that's where the shoes were. They then took them home. First off, why? Second off, why? Anyways, they did, and that's when they heard the shoes tap dancing in the middle of the night. Later, it was revealed that the shoes were haunted by a girl named Lisa. Now, it didn't say how much they sold for, but seriously, unless you're Ed or Lorraine Warren, why would you want to buy any of these haunted items? Especially shoes that are gonna wake you up in the middle of the night when you're just trying to sleep peacefully. In our second spot, we have the memoir box. Right away, You can tell by looking at this image that all of those items are cursed. Like, what are we even looking at? It looks like a serial killer's keepsake box. Apparently though, it's an old memoir box found inside of an old Victorian home during an estate sale. For some reason, the people touring the estate went up to the attic and came across this box, along with some old children's clothes and scrapbooks. I'ma stop myself right there. So, for starters, they go to an estate sale and they're like, let's not go to the kitchen to check for some fine china. No, let's go to the attic and see what dusty old creepy things they got up there. Like, what? Anyways, and then they found it and decided to take it back with them. A box with other people's hair in it. Yeah, that seems normal. I hope they didn't actually spend money on that. Anyways, the box was filled with random stuff like a tin monkey, locks of hair, small pieces of paper, and some books. On one of the locks of hair, there's a small slip of pink paper that reads, "Died March 14th, 1920, Little Edgar." Even after discovering that, the person still bought this from the estate sale. Now apparently they had every intention on keeping it, until the box started freaking them out. The seller's dog would just stare randomly at this one corner in their room. It also wouldn't even go near the box at all. So he ended up listing it on eBay for someone else to love. How about we just, let the spirit live in peace, or like, I don't know, donate it to a museum? What do you even do when you have something like that? Just stop buying and selling haunted objects on eBay, honestly. And in our number one spot today, we have the statue. According to the seller, their friend got this statue back in the 1980s. He used to have a job doing brick yard work, and then what he would do was take the unhardened clay, and during his time off, he would sculpt and paint them. Some of the other workers would do the same thing as well. This particular statue was made by a man named William. He claimed that the bust was a self-portrait. Well, sadly, that very day, William was involved in a tragic accident and he got crushed to death. His spirit apparently then latched onto his sculpture. The seller saw his friend's sculpture and decided to take it home with him, preserve the memory of his friend instead of just throwing it out. But that night, he woke up to the sound of someone walking around his house in circles. He checked his home, but no one was there. Later on, other weird things started to happen, like he would hear doors slam shut, only to find no door had actually closed. The scariest thing though is when one night he saw a dark mist moving in his den. He walked in and the room felt heavy and uninviting. Later he realized it was the statue causing all these problems when he noticed his dogs wouldn't go near the statue and refused to even look at it. So that's when he decided to list it up on good old eBay, so someone else's dogs can be spooked by it. So in conclusion, as tempting as it may seem to buy a haunted item off of eBay, maybe don't, just leave it to the professionals to take care of. Starting off this countdown, we have Jeffrey Dahmer's jacket. Yeah, you heard me correctly. Someone once owned infamous serial killer Jeffrey Dahmer's jacket. The seller, Plagle41, claimed that he was in the same class at Dahmer at Revere High in Bath, Ohio. In senior year, the seller was doing a comedy act and needed an army jacket for the sketch. They didn't have one, but Jeffrey was like, oh hold up, I got one, and went to his car and returned with the jacket in hand. The seller used it for the performance, and after the show, Jeffrey said for him just to keep the jacket. Kinda makes me wonder, was that for sure Jeffrey's jacket, or was it one of his many victims' jacket? Like, why was he so willing to give it away? Probably because it was evidence linking him to one of his victims, so he was like, nah, you keep it. I mean, I'm just stretching here, but you never know. Anyways, the seller was cleaning up his family's home when he found the jacket in one of the bins. Obviously, by this point, he knew what Jeffrey had done, so his family wanted him to get rid of it and all the bad juju surrounding it. In the end, this jacket ended up selling for $150.
Number 4 on this list is the haunted donkey. So this one could be very good or very bad, depending depending on the person who purchases it. Mental Floss says this small decorative juice container has a surprisingly spooky backstory. According to the owner, it spontaneously fills up with water. The inherited piece has been exhibiting the odd behavior for years since the owner was a child. At first, they suspected that their grandmother, who owned the item at the time, was filling it with water, but once she died, they discovered that there was something else at play. One night, the seller knocked against the jug by accident and noticed it sounded like it had liquid in it. When I investigated, I found that there was indeed water in it, they wrote. I thought maybe it was a mistake, they explained, but it's happened sporadically ever since. I'm not scared or anything, but I'm just not into the type of stuff. I wish my Nana well in the afterlife, but it's just not for me, they said. Now, one thing that isn't mentioned there is what happens if you drink the water. Apparently, if you have a good heart and are kind and caring and look out for your fellow human, then drinking this water is fine, and it's believed to even give you good luck. But if you don't possess those qualities that I just listed, if you're rude, if you're selfish, and if you're greedy, if you only look out for yourself and will walk over other individuals for your own personal gain, then drinking this water will do the opposite. You will be cursed with bad luck, and it will be very hard to get rid of it. So that's what I mean. This item can be very polarizing and can be super good depending on who buys it, or it could be super bad. Number 3 on this list is the DJINN mask. We have another cursed item from eBay here that can certainly have its benefits, but also have its drawbacks as well if you aren't careful with it. Mental Floss says the person selling this mask claims that they personally witnessed a witch in Thailand capture a jinn or genie in it. Among the mask's alleged talents are the ability to bring the owner riches and the ability to keep vampires away. Both are useful skills, but they come with a price. You must make offerings of food and drink to keep the jinn happy. Not to mention the fact that for the first month you have to meditate on his name 3 times a day for 20 minutes each. So here's my thing. Riches and the ability to ward off vampires, that sounds cool, I like it. I mean, who wouldn't want to have a magical mask that can make you rich? That'd be awesome. Granted, there is that whole other thing too. This is a jinn, and even though that's really cool, I don't want to fall into a trap of fully trusting this thing. Genies are very tricky. They say one thing, you take it at face value, but they mean something else entirely. So this thing might say something and make you believe that you're getting rich, and then totally flip the script on you and have it mean something else. Also, let's not forget that if you mess up a little bit and don't offer this thing food or water or meditate on it 3 times a day, then it will probably choose to respond decently badly to you. These are all risks that I personally don't think I'm willing to take. Also, here's my other thing. Like, if this mask is gonna give you tons of riches, then why is somebody selling it on eBay? Why would you need to sell this thing if you're already super rich based on the mask? And if it was that great, then wouldn't you want to keep it? I don't know, just some stuff to consider before you pull the trigger on this thing. Number 2 on this list is Lisa's shoes. Lisa was a young girl who lived back in the Victorian era a long time ago. Now apparently she died way too soon. We think it was sepsis, but we don't really know when she died or why she died for sure. All we know is that she was taken from the earth way too early. Mental Floss says, said to contain the spirit of a little girl called Lisa, these shoes were found by someone who was curating their late aunt's estate, tucked in a nursery closet alongside various Victorian clothes and toys. They suspected they were haunted, the seller writes, since there was a lot of knocking in the nursery closet. If actually possessed, tap dancing might wake one up in the middle of the night. The noise wasn't the only indication of the shoes' otherworldly nature. The house they were found in was rumored to be home to a number of ghosts, including that of a woman who had murdered her baby there in the 19th century, and the spirit of a 9-year-old girl who died of sepsis. So if you're the type of individual who likes to fall asleep to the sound of cursed shoes dancing all over the floor, then I guess this is for you. I don't know how many of those people are out there, but hey, no judgment here. I personally do not have any interest in purchasing some cursed shoes, but that's just me. Apparently, if your heart really does desire such a thing, then a few clicks on eBay is all it's gonna take. And finally, number 1 on this list is the Anguished Man painting. The Anguished Man painting has been something that we've talked a decent amount about on this channel when it comes to haunted and cursed paintings. Well, you can buy this haunted / cursed painting on eBay if you wanted to do so. The seller of this oil painting describes it as a horrific paranormal portrait. The artist is unknown, but according to its owner, the artwork may be responsible for a number of spooky goings on around the house. Since owning this painting, I've experienced a number of strange paranormal events that cannot be easily explained, the seller writes in the listing. These include hearing disembodied footsteps from elsewhere in the house, the sound of bird songs appearing out of thin air in the living room, and finally observing a heavy metal door latch lift by itself and the kitchen door open by itself. So that's a hard pass from me, guys. Not only will this painting curse you and your home, but also, like, really isn't that great of a painting to begin with. I mean, I don't want to disrespect the artist here. I'm sure that they had a great vision, but I don't really want to have a picture of a screaming dude in my home just looking at me all the time. Even if this thing wasn't haunted and was just totally normal, that would still scare the bejesus out of me late at night when I'm half asleep going to get a glass of water or something. If you are about it though, then hit them up on eBay and you can get the Anguished Man painting in your home today.
Starting off this countdown, we have the haunted Dybbuk box. Dybbuk boxes are known to contain a malicious spirit that can and will possess you. In Jewish mythology, a Dybbuk is a malicious spirit that is said to be a disturbed soul of a deceased person. So basically, you don't want to be fooling around with these spirits or boxes. But of course, eBay has many listed for sale on there. Let's take a look at this one particular box. The seller said that he got the box off of an elderly man in South Carolina. In fact, he apparently collects Dybbuk boxes. Anyways, his collection was getting so big that he put it in his crawl space. After doing so, he said it sounded like someone was moving quickly underneath his house. Every day at 3 a.m. he would hear this terrifying noise. Whenever he goes down to check on the box, he feels a cool, heavy air surrounding it. On top of that, his dog often growls at the box and the crawl space. Lastly, he said he heard knocking and children's whispers coming from the box. Due to this reason, he decided to sell the box on eBay. But he was only looking to sell it to an experienced collector, someone that knows how to handle this box and won't just purchase it for fun and then fool around with it. Because the last thing we need is someone buying it as a joke and then the spirit gets out and goes around possessing people. No thank you, 2021 is already bad enough. And in the end, it ended up selling for $39.99. Kind of a steal, not gonna lie. In our 4th spot, we have the haunted dolls. I swear, there is a whole section on eBay just for haunted dolls. It's insane. There are hundreds of them. You know, I've seen the movie Annabelle and no thanks, I'm never buying one. I don't want to risk it. But apparently to paranormal collectors, this is heaven to them. For example, one seller, AkiJ25, was selling a haunted doll, Dakota Spirit Child, that is apparently very active. It also came with a warning saying only people experienced with the paranormal can buy this item. According to the seller, the doll is haunted by the spirit of a child named Dakota, who was murdered by his mom. The doll has been known to break mirrors and gets quite angry at times. Now, fun fact, apparently eBay has a rule that you can't sell anything that offers someone's soul, like selling something that claims to have someone's soul attached to it. You can't do that. So what these buyers do is put a little disclaimer that says, for entertainment purposes only, but that's a lie, and they only do it to prevent their items from being removed. Now, let's take a look at some of the creepiest dolls I found on eBay. For starters, we got this gem, the haunted vintage antique evil active possessed witch demon doll. And of course, they photographed this doll on a Ouija board because why not? I mean, it is fitting. Anyways, this one is being sold for $100 US. What a steal. Then we have this one, the haunted 16-inch spiritual doll spirit vessel. And apparently it has supernatural paranormal powers. Honestly, Victorian dolls like this creep me the hell out, so no thank you. But hey, if you're interested in this doll, it's cheaper than the other one. And last but not least, and creepiest of all, we have this doll. that I swear if you stare at too long, she will suck out your soul. This is the haunted 16-inch spiritual doll spirit vessel that also has supernatural and paranormal powers. Like, look at it, that one is for sure haunted. And the winning freaking bid was $5,600. Like, are you kidding me? You're literally paying to get possessed. Moving on, at number 3 we have The Hands Resist Him. Now, since this is a horror channel, chances are you probably heard of this haunted painting. That's because this painting is known to be one of the most haunted paintings in the world. So the story goes that this painting was created in 1972 by an artist named Bill Stoneham. Over the years, it has been bought and sold on eBay by a number of buyers and sellers. No one wants to keep it for themselves. Why? Because of how terrifyingly haunted it is. It first appeared on eBay in 2000. The seller said they needed it gone ASAP because it was terrorizing their family. The seller went on to say that their daughter was most affected by it. Their daughter said the boy and the doll in the picture would fight each other at night, whatever that means. But they also got eerie vibes around the painting, so they set up a motion sensing camera for 3 nights just monitoring the painting. The camera captured the boy leaving the freaking painting, or so they claim. So she sold it. The next seller said the painting made them feel ill or dizzy whenever they were around it. So they sold it. The next seller said they heard an exorcist type voice after viewing the painting. They sold it, and so on, you get it. But it seems as if children are most affected by the painting, and it will haunt them in their dreams. As a result, no one wants to own it. Nowadays, it's displayed in an art gallery in Beverly Hills. Moving on, at number 2 we have the haunted doll carriage. This next story is gonna give you the creeps. Plus, it happened a couple months ago, so it's really recent. Basically, a family in Brandon, Missouri was gifted an antique doll carriage for their daughter for Christmas. Whitney Merritt, the mom, said the carriage was gifted to them from her mom, who got it from a friend of a friend. They probably all knew it was haunted and just needed someone to pawn it off to. Anyways, as soon as they received the carriage, spooky things started to happen around their house. It started with the knocking. Every so often they would hear creepy knocking on their walls. One night it got so bad they literally thought someone was in their attic walking around. But when they got up there, the knocking stopped and no one was there. This lasted for a week. The second week is when the paranormal activity picked up. They would wake up in the middle of the night to sounds of stuff being knocked over. When they investigated, they found shattered mugs all in their kitchen. This entity broke several mugs in the family's home. They even would slam dishes in the sink. The third week is when it got the worst. That's when Whitney actually saw the spirit that was attached to the carriage. She was chilling when she saw a person walk past the door and into the kitchen. She turned quickly and the entity disappeared. Now, they never knew what was haunting them until they realized that the paranormal activity started as soon as they received that damn carriage. So they were like, F that, and they took it and they stuck it outside, and guess what? The paranormal activity stopped. That's when they decided to list it on eBay. When she did, someone came forward and told her the backstory of the carriage. Apparently, the carriage was once owned by a woman whose husband died in a motorcycle accident, and it's thought that his spirit is the one that's attached to it. Whitney strongly believes that that's the entity she saw in her kitchen. In the end, the carriage was listed for $65, but after a bidding war, someone purchased it for $710. Again, that person is just paying to get haunted. I literally don't get it. And in our number 1 spot today, we have the Haunted Watch. What time is it? Spooky time. I know, that was lame, but it made me laugh. Anyways, when I saw this listing, I literally got shivers down my spine. So it was listed as Haunted Watch stuck at 11:29 p.m. According to the seller, the person they received that watch from told them that a 24-year-old woman named Julie once owned the watch. One day she was headed out for a run, so she took the watch off and placed it on her nightstand. But Julie never returned home. She ended up getting kidnapped while on her run. The man that kidnapped her ended up killing her at 11:29 p.m. The exact same time that watch is now stuck at. That is the scariest thing that I've ever heard. But wait, There's more. The buyer took the watch to a medium to see if the seller was lying, or like what the deal with it was. Without telling the medium anything about the watch, the medium said that a woman named Julie is attached to it. That's insane. The seller also said that whenever they go near it, the temperature around them drops, even in the hottest weather. In the end, they listed it on eBay and sold it for only $17.50, the cheapest item on this list, but also the creepiest.